Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Solar Flash update for November 4th, 2023. I'm going to be sharing with you a very powerful astrological effect that's going to be hitting later in the month, where Mars and Saturn have their most powerful mutual aspect. And it's going to create very intense energies. And the end result is that the 3D to 5D dimensional split is going to widen. And what that means is people really are going to have to decide which direction they're going to go, because their decisions are becoming more and more entrenched. And this is why it is absolutely imperative that we work to be conscious and work through all of our issues. Because if, what I've been led to believe is true, we're coming to a complete, total shift, a new world, a new experience. So welcome back to the channel. This is the thunderwizard.com channel. If you're new to the channel, this channel is not about listening to me talk. I'm grateful that you come and listen to me talk. I'm grateful that you come and watch the channel. But as wonderful as I might think I am, I by myself don't have the power to change you. You must change yourself. We live in a three-dimensional world that is dictated by actions. That includes beliefs, assumptions, and of course physical actions. And we have the ability in the third dimension, which is why the third dimension is so powerful, why we chose to incarnate here, is because in this realm of duality, we have the ability to have thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that go in more of a dualist, three-dimensional direction, but we can choose to change our assumptions, our beliefs, and more importantly, our actions. Manifestation in the third dimension only comes after you've done the visualization, the change within yourself, and then you must follow through with corresponding actions, or the manifestation does not happen. That is a fact. So I give you tools because, like you, I can't simply think myself into a more powerful, more, five-dimensional reality. I can't do that. I can imagine all I want, and then I must follow through. And the easiest way to change your frequency, which is all that 3D and 5D is just a frequency. The easiest way to change your frequency in the beginning is to do very simple physical movements, which we call Qigong, which I teach you here in the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. That is the easiest way. It's the fastest and easiest way. Then you must also continue to do the meditative practices and the self-analysis practices, all of which I teach you here for free. So if you're new to the channel and you are serious, because I'm going to start telling you as we start going forward how much more difficult it's going to be for people to shift. But the good news is that there's no such thing as too late, and there's no shortage of very easy actions you can take which will shift your complete body and your energy into a higher vibration. So the first thing I want you to do if you're new to the channel is to go to the Awakening the Immortals, which I believe you'll find either by itself in the playlist or in the Qigong playlist. You can do any of the Qigong, whether it's the Hul breath, the Huar breath, Awakening the Immortals, any of it, doesn't matter. Any of them will work. Awakening the Immortals is the quickest free practice that I offer you. Second thing I want you to do is to go to the interdimensional meditation folder. Find the guided interdimensional meditation. This is free, and just simply press play and follow the instructions. That will give you access to higher dimensions, which will give you more power to take the appropriate actions. And then number 3, I want you to go to the playlist that is 12 Steps to 5D and do those. I think I've got it up to step 7, which is really the most important steps. Once you get to step 7, things start moving forward. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 become a lot easier. But until you get up until step 7, the real dynamic, permanent change won't happen. And then, of course, when you're ready, when you've done any of these and you feel the power of this, and you are absolutely, completely committed to making a complete shift into the 5th dimension, then I want you to go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You don't have to wait. I'm just telling you. People say, I don't want to pay for that. Well, I'm giving you how to figure out, experience for free what these energies will do. If you want those energies and you want more of them, then subscribe. You know, and by subscribe, I mean at the thunderwizard.com Patreon site. You don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. For those of you who want to have access to all of my teachings that I've been offering over the years, including the Maoshan 5-element moving form, which again, in my experience, is the most transformational energy practice on the planet, you can go to 923.thunderwizard.com. I'm giving that stuff away for almost for free. You save like $3,500, something like that. My books, michaelwilliamdenny.com. You can also look for me at Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. Interdimensional Revolution is very important. Extraterrestrials are coming to Earth, and the most important is the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I recommend that you read my books, that you watch the videos on my channel, subscribe, hit the like button, comment, do all of that, and then take advantage of this. Because, you know, I played on here a video and somebody responded very positively, which I was, of course, very thrilled. But that video has been on my channel for 6 years. So people are like, where did this video come from? It's been on the channel. So make use of it. Don't be lazy. All right, let's get back into the topic here. So, solar flash update. In terms of the solar flash, we're having, I think, an interesting experience, which is the planetary aspects that are happening seem to have an effect of slowing down the experience of people feeling like they're shifting. And that has to do with what Mars and Saturn are doing. This is from myself as well. A lot of things have calmed down. They spike, you know, for a couple of days. I'll have very powerful interdimensional experiences, and then it'll calm down and I just become a normal person. So it's very hard in these times to believe that this solar flash thing is going to come. But there's no two ways about it. We are going to change. Everything is going to change. That is not up for debate. But there's a feeling, I think, that a lot of people have, and a lot of people are finding it hard to find faith in the universe, belief in the universe. We've talked about that you must be willing to change your assumptions. If you're somebody who believes that the universe is out to get you, because that's your experience, you believe that God or the gods or reptilians or other false beings of light are trying to trick you into living in a reincarnation trap, those feelings are coming from a very real experience, but it's not spiritual. That feeling of being trapped, lied to, manipulated is coming from very powerful human forces who have access to things that we would call in our ignorance black magic. But they have powers over everything. I mean, the most powerful spell, and you can look at it that way, the most powerful black magic spell that the dark forces have over all of the world is the belief that money controls your survival. And now we're moving into a time where money is going to be digital. You know what that means? It means it doesn't exist. That it's merely an idea on a software program. There's no reality to it. People will live and die based on some arbitrary number in a computer. There was a time, when our ancestors were living in harmony with our environment. You could go and barter with things that you could actually use for your survival. Food, skins, clothing, weapons, metal. You could trade for that. Even spices, the spice trade, at least that's going into your food. At least there's nutrients involved in that. And then we went to things that were just symbolic, like gold. People now, it's really funny to me, people, if you watch like Rumble or things where you've got a lot of conservative political viewpoints, and there's an argument to it, but they say, we really need to get our hands on more gold, as though gold itself has some kind of value, to help you survive. It only does if you and I agree that gold has value. And yeah, it's better than digital currency. It can't be erased as long as somebody doesn't steal it out of your possession. But if somebody decides that gold has no value, then you'll have no value. But there will never come a day when food will not have value, water will not have value. There are places in North Africa where there are criminal organizations that make all of their power and their money over water. Water is a real thing. Money isn't. So this is a black magic spell, and you are affected by it. I'm affected by it. We can't function in this world without this nonsense about money. But if you're willing to go beyond the black magic, if you're willing to go beyond the spells, then you can find true power, true significance, and true value, and that is of a higher dimensional nature. I hesitate to say of a spiritual nature, because even spirituality has been mixed up into all kinds of intellectual nonsense. I mean actual power to change reality, power to change the earth into a new 5-dimensional earth. That is a real thing. You have that power. And so it starts with changing your assumption about the universe. A helpful assumption, which I believe is the truth, is that the universe, all of the energy in the universe, all of the consciousness in the universe is 100% focused on your empowerment, on your happiness. The consciousness of the universe is completely dedicated to giving you all of the resources, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And the only thing that is required of you is that you choose to interact with it, to flow with it. You have a portal within your body that allows you direct access to, if you want to call it God, you can, the quantum field, spirit. I don't care what word you want to use. That portal is your soul. The emotion that will allow you to keep that connection is bliss. Bliss isn't something that is for everybody a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week scenario. It happens sometimes in just little blips. But when you are connected to your soul and you are not operating from a victim mentality, when you're operating from the assumption that the universe loves you unconditionally and must give you everything you need on every level, you will become aware of what kind of reality you truly want, and that will give you a feeling of bliss. And, there's that phrase, follow your bliss. And it really means sort of like there's a light, you're sitting out in the middle of the desert and there's 4 lights, and, you can choose to follow any of those lights to try and get back to civilization. Well, one of those lights is a light that's directly connected to your soul, and there's a feeling of bliss there which has to do with your happiness, your joy, your fulfillment. And if you are willing to live fearlessly and walk in that, you will be in a flow of light that will pull you towards taking the specific actions. Walking is an action. You can't just sit there and look at all the lights saying, come here. You have to actually walk towards it. Which is interesting, because victim mentality people will tell you, don't go into the light. They're telling you, don't take action. And that, again, is part of the black magic spell put on you. To not understand just the basic truth of reality. You must take action towards your soul if you want to expand and grow and evolve. The third dimension is about action. So if you don't take actions towards what you want, guaranteed nothing will change, and more than likely you will recede backward into less happiness. So I don't know what got me onto that, but let's go back to what we're going to talk about. So Mars and Saturn are going to be in its most powerful mutual aspect at the end of this month, and it's going to create intense energy. So Saturn has been going back and forth. It's been going retrograde and direct, and what this has been doing is it creates karmic buildup of energies. Because what will happen is Mars will go direct, which will give you the ability to resolve issues. It'll go retrograde, which will pull you back into your karmas, which if you're not working a spiritual program, then what will happen is you will become more and more entrenched in your victim mentality, your pain, and your karma. So when it goes back and forth like that, it tends to sort of kind of stimulate the energies, and you don't really necessarily go powerfully in one direction or another, and the energies start to build up. These energies are pressure. So if you've been feeling a lot of pressure lately, that has to do with Saturn as well. Saturn is the planet of judgment, karma, limitation. But Saturn is also the planet of hard work. So what ends up happening when Saturn leans on you, so imagine, if you've got, let's say you build a box. Say you build it out of wood. Now that box is only as strong as its, the seams, the joints. If the joints aren't strong, it doesn't matter if you have, wood this thick. If the joints aren't strong, all you have to do is put pressure on it, it'll collapse. So your consciousness is like that. And Saturn comes and says, you must focus on your true spiritual path, and you must now be held accountable for actions that have gone contrary to your spiritual empowerment. And then Saturn just puts this pressure on you. What ends up happening when we feel pressure is our first instinct is to push back. Right? That makes sense. For people who are consciously aware, they go, okay, it's time for me to start taking action, more action. You do a spiritual practice, you do a meditative discipline, you go to the gym, you save your money. This is kind of stuff that Saturn will, if your thinking is going towards your own empowerment, you'll start thinking along those lines. Go on a diet, meditate more, stop drinking, stop smoking, go to the gym, be more kind, give alms to the poor. These are all the kinds of actions that people go to get rid of the excess pressure. But that's only if they have the awareness, or they're already deeply into the discipline of their spiritual practice. For the average person, what ends up happening is your self-defense, your survival instinct kicks in and says, no, entrench yourself more deeply, do less work, fight back. And all that's going to do is make your box crack that much more quickly. The pressure will build up and it'll collapse on you. So that's what Saturn has been doing, for a while now, since the beginning of the year at least. But now we're going to end in a situation where Saturn is going to go direct again. And what happens is when Saturn, moves from direct to retrograde or retrograde to direct, it stations, meaning it just sits in place. From our perspective, in actuality, all kinds of things are happening in the solar system. But from our perspective, Saturn just sort of stays in one place and stations himself. And when that happens, after he's been bouncing back and forth, when he's finally made up his mind which direction he's going to go, and then he stations himself, it means that pressure intensifies. It intensifies, and people respond to that pressure, either by surrendering to their spiritual path, or by entrenching themselves even harder. And then this is when you see all of the explosive kinds of things you're seeing now. So there's a good chance, I mean, unless I'm not married to this, unless there's a real awakening, there's a good chance that the things that are happening externally are going to get worse in the next couple of months. So in terms of you, what does this mean for you? This means for you that you may find yourself entrenching yourself more deeply. So, you know, what I'm seeing with people is people are really going in two directions. As I've said before, I'm seeing no shortage of people who are completely losing their mind. And people who know better. There are some people who don't. They're finally, for the first time in their life, becoming aware of, you know, really uncomfortable, unconscious, repressed issues are coming to their mind, and they legitimately don't know what to do. And I feel for them. But there are people who, you know, have been, you know, screwing around and trying to stay in their unconscious state. And you'll find this with a lot of people who present themselves as being spiritual. They talk the talk, they look like they walk the walk, they know all of the lingo, they've been to all of the seminars, but when it comes to their actual life, they haven't really taken a lot of fearless action to shift and change. And so what's happening with them is they're losing it. They're acting completely, totally opposite to the way they've been presenting themselves their whole life. And so people who are supposedly very spiritual are now, you know, doing all kinds of incredibly destructive things to themselves, lashing out at others, becoming kind of crazy and very childish in their behavior. And what's happening is, like a child having a temper tantrum. You know, I mean, if you're a parent, I'm not. And I'm grateful that I'm not. I wouldn't want to do that. That's a lot of work. But, you know, if you're a parent, you know that at some point with your child, there's going to be a war of the wills. And, you know, children, you know, they learn if they have a temper tantrum once and they get their way, they go, that's how I get what I want. And so they become entrenched in it. And then at some point, if you want to change that, you end up having a big battle with a little kid with his hands on his hips telling you he hates you and I refuse to do this and you're the worst parent and all that. And they trash their room or whatever and are the children. And unfortunately, you know, there's a big spectrum of people. Some people have been horrifically wounded. And so their unconsciousness really is the best that they can do without any kind of spiritual intervention. And then there are other people that know what to do, but can't bring themselves to do it because they're unwilling to experience the pain of, you know, taking different actions. And at some point, it comes down to that. It's just that simple. Simple doesn't mean easy. It just means simple. So I do my best to provide you with very simple solutions. Go and do the Qigong every day. Do the 12 steps to 5D every day. If you qualify, which the vast majority of people on my channel do, if you qualify for a 12-step program like Alcoholics Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Codependence Anonymous, Al-Anon, you know, most of the people on my channel, I'm going to say, qualify for one of those programs. Get your rear end into one of those programs and get a sponsor. Work the steps. It's easy, it's free, and it is the most powerful method of mental and psychological transformation on the planet. It's more powerful than any religion. It's more powerful than therapy. You combine that with an actual spiritual practice that gives you power. That's not some intellectual thing like Christianity where you have to believe in Jesus. You know, it's all about what you believe. when you get involved in an actual spiritual practice that gives you actions that connect you directly to higher dimensional energy, you combine that with an actual program of action that goes into reprogramming the neural connections in your brain so that you can take positive action instead of negative action, then there's literally nothing that can stop you. Nothing. I'm telling you from personal experience, even recent personal experience. You know, this Saturn pressure has been on me as well. I've gone through the worst personal attacks in my life, short of, you know, the trauma I went through as a child. The worst personal attacks of my life I've gone through, and I have had the ability to go, okay, how can I take what is true out of these personal attacks and apply them to myself? And how can I also take a look and see what is nonsense and not be affected by it and not be hurt and not be angered? And that takes a lot of work. That takes, you know, daily practice in everything that I recommend that you do. And one of the sad things that I experience is there are students of mine, not very many, I'm not pointing out anybody, but certainly there are no shortage of channel viewers who believe they know more than me. I mean, let me finish this. They are addicted to my channel. They come on every time that I do a live stream, and they listen to all of it. I don't know how much action they take. But when it comes to doing what I do on a daily basis, they won't do it. And if you ask them, they will tell you, they will intellectualize it. And in essence, the message of it is, well, that's okay for you, but I don't need to do that. But I'm still your student and I want you to tell me what to do. So it would be like, you know, if you want to, anything, you know, you want to become an Olympic boxer, you want to be an Olympic swimmer, you want to learn how to become an electrician. You know, if you go to an electrician and he says, well, this is what we do, I do this every time I'm putting together some electrical, whatever, I'm not an electrician. You have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Well, if you haven't mastered the science of you know, electronics, to then go, well, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'll do this and I'll do this because I understand it and it's easy, but I'm not going to do that. It just doesn't make sense. And this is unfortunately, you know, my biggest frustration. No shortage of people following my channel. Small percentage of people who actually do what I suggest. And if I suggest it to you, it means that I have done it and or I am doing it. I never suggest anybody do something that I myself don't do. So it doesn't make any sense if you are saying with your actions that you know more than me, and yet you treat me as your teacher. You're working against yourself. So let me go deeper into this mutual Mars-Saturn aspect. So again, we're talking Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is the actual correct calculation of the stars in the sky. When you look at a Vedic chart where the stars are, you look up in the sky, the stars will be right where the chart says it. It's not true with Western. You look at a Western chart, you look up in the sky, the stars won't be anywhere near what the Western chart is telling you. That's because the Western chart is off by 24 degrees, 2,000 years. That's what the sky would have looked like 2,000 years ago under the same conditions. So just to let you know, if you really want to know what astrology is, you're going to have to go. If you want to stay Western, go right ahead. Become a sidereal Western astrologer. Forget about the tropical zodiac. It's inaccurate. All right. So what's going to happen is Mars is going to be at the end of this month, 24th, I think it is. At the end of this month, Mars is going to be in Scorpio. Mars is going to be in Scorpio. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. What is that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Saturn is an Aquarius. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. Okay. So Saturn, I believe, will be in Aquarius, and Mars will be in Scorpio. So what that means is that Saturn and Mars have very powerful aspects. Most planets just have a seventh house aspect, meaning the house that's directly opposite it. That's, most planets have that. When you say, for instance, Mercury has a mutual aspect with Venus, it would mean that Venus was exactly 7 houses away and they'd be looking at each other. So Mars and Saturn have multiple aspects. They do have the 7th house aspect. They have Mars has a 2, 3, 4. Is that right? A 4. Yeah, 1, 2. Mars has a 4th, a 7th, and an 8th aspect. The 4th aspect, meaning the house that's 4 houses away, is a 100% aspect. Saturn has 3, 7, and 10. So the 3rd house, the 7th house, and the 10th house. The most powerful aspect for Saturn is the 10th house. So 10 houses away. So there's going to be a point where Saturn and Mars are going to be in this, where Saturn is going to be 4 houses away from Mars, and Mars is going to be 10 houses away from Saturn. Just to give you a practical understanding of what that means, I have that in my chart. I have that most powerful mutual aspect. I have Mars in the 3rd house, which is communication, energy, hands, bravery, action. That's why I'm always talking about action. Mars is sitting in that house. So it's my focus. What can I do to change my reality? And 4 houses away from that is Saturn. So Mars is staring at Saturn. Now, Mars and Saturn are both warriors. Even though Mars is the general, Saturn is the judge. Saturn became the judge because he was a master warrior. He's like a retired general, and he's now a judge. He does the same kinds of things that Mars does. Mars transforms, is a policeman. Saturn is a judge. He frees you or puts you in prison, and he tells you what you have to do to get free of your sins, your karma, the negativity hanging over you. So Mars is empowering Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of the Enlightenment. And so what's interesting about that is that Aquarius itself is a Saturn sign. And so you have the 10th sign, which is Capricorn, and the 11th sign, which is Aquarius. So Capricorn is all about hard work. It's the 10th house. It's your career. It's hard work. Saturn in the 10th house says you got to work your ass off every day to accomplish anything. When you've done all the work and you've built the city, you've built the hospital, you've built everything, then you go into the 11th house, where then everybody gets to benefit from all of their hard work. So Saturn is going to be sitting in that, which means that if you haven't done the work, you're not going to benefit. See what I'm getting at? If you haven't done the work, you're not going to benefit, because the sign of Aquarius isn't just equality and everybody having, smoking weed and listening to the Rolling Stones or whatever. It means that you've done all the spiritual work, and now you get to live in the freedom that has come from you burning off all of your karma. You living your reality. Now, Saturn has a 10th house aspect on Mars. So what did we say about the 10th house? The 10th house, Capricorn, is hard work. If you walk into the 10th house and Saturn's there, Saturn's going to go, yep, you've got 10,000 lifetimes of karma, and we're going to work through it all together. Well, how long is it going to take? Saturn says, it's going to take as long as it takes. Time to get started. And you got to work your tail off. You got to keep working consistently with discipline. So when Mars is 10 houses away from Saturn, it means that Saturn is telling Mars to work. Mars loves to work. Mars is all about action. Mars doesn't want to sit on his rear end and think about it. He wants to take action all the time. So when you have Mars and Saturn both aspecting themselves, you're going to get two guaranteed results from that in one or two ways. One is you are going to get massive karmic freedom, enlightenment, moksha, liberation. You will manifest it. You will be free from all of the nonsense, all of the hard work, all of the pain, all of the karma. You will be free of that, and you will be able to experience it and take action enjoying it. The other one is you will become more entrenched in your denial, in your resistance, and you will suffer the consequences. You will get pummeled by both Mars and Saturn. So one of the reasons, that I'm 60 years old and I'm not absolutely unaware of my age. Just to give you an example, when I go surfing, I have to surf on bigger boards that have more volume so I can paddle faster, get into waves faster, because I don't have nearly the breath that I used to have when I was in my 30s. My body has become actually more muscular. I've gotten more, of course I've got fatter too with age, but I'm stronger than I was when I was in my 30s. This is because Mars and Saturn are looking at each other, and it creates this longevity. It creates this power. And you get to overcome your enemies and things like that. This is what's coming for everybody. So for instance, what's happening with me is my enemies, when they come at me, they end up, not that I'm lashing back, but when you go up and try to punch a mountain, you're going to break your fists. So when you got Mars and Saturn there and people try and fight against it, it's like with a bare knuckle trying to punch a mountain. You're just going to break your wrist, your hands, your wrists. And it gives longevity. So people who are fighting against Saturn and Mars, who are both knocking on the door saying, it's time to pay up. It's time for you to do the work. And if you're not willing to do the work, you will suffer the consequences. And those consequences will be things like illness. You'll get crazy illnesses. The easy, simple ones are going to be things like pain, headaches, fibromyalgia, joint pain, tendinitis. Other ones like cancer come up and this kind of thing. If you fight against, doing the work and releasing the karma, it builds up in some kind of negative way. You're going to see a lot more people dropping like flies because of that finally is going to kick in even more. I talk about on my a recent video on my Rumble channel. I talk about something you can do to ensure your health. Go take a look at that. I can't talk about it here. So you get the point. Mars and Saturn are teaming up. The good news is if you've been doing the work, you are going to find relief. You are going to find power. You are going to find bliss and happiness, and your work will pay off. You will feel an awakening, and you will feel yourself distancing even more and more and more from the third dimensional narrative. So that's the good news. It's never too late, by the way. So if you're not somebody that's been doing the work, great, do the work. Because what'll happen is, the way that Saturn works is, when Saturn leans on you, if you fight back, it ends up reflecting back on you, and Saturn becomes heavier and heavier and heavier. And it's a direct result of the energy you're pushing back. Just like I said, it's like trying to push against a mountain. It just gets reflected back onto you. But when Saturn is leaning on you and you surrender and you say, okay, I give up. Tell me what I should do. Saturn says, that's all I wanted from you. You're heading towards your own destruction, and I am reminding you that if you don't go in another direction, it's going to come back on you in a negative way. And as long as you surrender, Saturn then becomes your best friend, takes you and says, okay, A, B, C, D, just do the work. In the case of this channel, what you can do is you can do the practices. You can do daily practices. You can be disciplined. Saturn loves teachers. And so Saturn always encourages you to find a teacher. Saturn will never come to you and say, you know what, you can figure it out on your own. Saturn will never say that. Saturn, in fact, loves ritual. The reason why Saturn loves ritual is because in rituals, you are giving your unconscious over to the gods. You know, this is why in India, people put pictures of their guru on their altar. Now, the guru, if he's a true guru, knows that he's not the one they're worshiping. He knows that he is a symbol to their unconscious. So they're not really worshiping him. They are worshiping what he's connected to, which is the symbol of higher learning and awareness. And that's Saturn loves statues. Because what do you do when you put a statue of Shiva or Kali or Odin or Thor? When you put a statue or a symbol, you know, Thor's hammer or something like that, a symbol of the deity, you put it on your altar and you worship it. What ends up happening is that the deity comes and lives in the statue, in the symbol. And then the deity can then directly connect you because you are asking the deity to teach you and to guide you. Saturn loves that. When you do things like that, Saturn says, yes, let me help you. Now let me help free you from your attachments. Let me get you out of these problems. I'll help you to work your way out of it. So Saturn can become your best friend. Same thing with Mars. You know, if Mars is a warrior and he's set his face against you, you might as well just surrender because it's over. You try and fight him, good luck with that. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. You know, I was some of you might not be interested in this, but the heavyweight champ of the world, Tyson Fury, went up against a complete unknown. And this Francis Ngannou was the heavyweight champion of MMA. He wasn't a boxer. Yeah, he could box, but he hasn't been trained in boxing. And so they had a fight. And everybody was saying Ngannou's going to get it, you know, the floor wiped with him. He's not trained as a boxer. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it went in the other direction. And what ended up happening is that Tyson Fury was going up against a guy and giving him his best shots, and it just didn't even rock him. You know, shots that would knock out somebody else were just bouncing off this guy like it was nothing. And then he was coming back and hitting twice as hard. And he ended up knocking the champ down his first time as a professional boxer. And what I saw was this rock. This guy's just rooted, and he's not afraid, and he's not eager, and he's not, you know, trying to do too much at once, and he just goes forward. Nothing can stop him. He just little by little goes forward and eats you up. This is what Mars will do. If you try and fight against Mars that's telling you, I am now hooked up with the judge, and the judge and I are coming into everybody's town, and if you can't pay your debts, you're going to suffer. You try and go up against that, you're going to get mowed down. So I'm making a really strong case for becoming aware of your getting rooted and intransigent. You won't win. You will end up angry, sick, poor, alone, miserable, furious. All of the horrible things will come to you if you don't become willing to change. And change only comes through actions. So here are some things that make Mars and Saturn happy. Living healthy, taking care of your physical body, having a teacher, having a guru, having a mentor, having a group of people that you use to keep yourself in check. That's why I keep talking about 12-step groups. Saturn will love it if you go to a 12-step group and work the steps. People, you can work with me. There's no shortage of people trying to get to me for free. Something happened over the past couple of months that people are coming to me and wanting to, work for free or have a free session with me or become my friend or try and seduce me into a relationship or, let's go together on some business. They've never done any of my practices, but somehow they want me to join up with them and get into a business with them. These are all people who want to have the benefits of the guru without having to actually become a student. So Saturn's going to knock the crap out of that. That's somebody who's acting on their resistance to their own growth. And that's the bottom line. If you take action that's in resistance to your own growth, you're going to get beat to hell. Life will beat the crap out of you. And it's doing that because there's only two paths left. You're either following the path to your greatest happiness, or you're walking towards your destruction. Those are there's no more sitting in your garbage and being okay. There's no more of that. It won't work. You can't stay where you are. It's not going to happen. So if you want to work with me, you can. You can go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the apprenticeship option, and then you can work with me, between 1 and 4 times a month, depending on you. Is that going to cost you? Yeah. You're going to have to pay for my time. That's Saturn. You're going to have to pay, whatever it is. If you go to a 12-step group, you're going to have to pay by doing the steps. You're going to have to put something into it. You can't get something back for nothing. And whether that's money, whether that's time, whether that's discipline, it doesn't matter. The universe will no longer just let you slide by. Something came up on my feed in YouTube, what they're calling Generation Z. And there's, I don't know if this is just, more women than men, but a couple of, young women in their 20s having meltdowns because they've just spent 4 years in college and they've got a degree. And in one case, this woman had a degree in marketing, and she's now finding out that nobody wants to hire her if she doesn't have any real world experience. They'll give her all, lower jobs or intern jobs or things like that, and she's flipping out because I thought if I got a degree that I was going to get a job. And now she's finding out what, especially older people like myself have known for a long time. The world doesn't work like that. The world responds to how much actual experience you have, which is Saturn and Mars. If you've done the work, you have experience, you get rewarded for that. You know the difference between what's going on inside of a school classroom and what's happening in the real world, because you'll find out it's not the same. That's that same kind of idea. Going, oh my God, I went, and not just doing what, my parents did and what I did. You just went and you just did the grind every day. You didn't think about it. You knew you had to start at the bottom and work your way up. You knew that you were going to be in debt. You knew you were going to have to I can remember after college, after getting a degree, I can remember I was running a theater company. I was teaching acting classes. I was writing. I was on the board of directors, making plans for, and doing all the graphics and everything for the flyers and the everything like that, as well as having to work 2 jobs, as well as having to go on auditions, as well as having to act in main stage productions. I was doing all of that. In fact, I put myself in the hospital. And that's just what you did. So it's kind of interesting to hear people not understand that, I just got out of college and I'm not going to get paid $200,000 a year to sit on my ass behind a desk. Oh, I didn't realize that. But that's, it's that same principle. People come on here, and in this time, things have gotten the internet over 3 decades now. 3 decades of the internet has taught people that everything can be given to them. And there are no shortage of spiritual gurus out there that appeal to your your childish narcissism where you believe everything should be given to you and you shouldn't have to work for it and you shouldn't have to pay for it. I've had students come to me and get angry with me, you know, when they want to work with me. And I say, here, go here and click on this link and buy a session with me, and they get upset. And they say things like, you don't understand, I'm here to give you things too. And I'm like, oh, what are you here to give me? I'm giving you my friendship. Well, I didn't ask for your friendship. I'm here to give you my energy, and I'm allowing you to teach me. Like, well, I appreciate that, but that's not what I'm looking for. You have to. It's a two-way street. You can't just decide to be my friend. I have to want that from you as well. So all of this is coming to light now. And the narrative is teaching you something different. The narrative, and to quote the World Economic Forum, you will own nothing. Everything will be provided to you by drone. You will rent and you will be happy. You won't get to eat meat. You won't be, you know, there's these new smart cities that are being built where they're creating cities where people won't need personal transportation, and they'll also be locked into a city. Everywhere you go, there will be cameras watching you, whatever it is that you do, and you will be told what to do and where to go. And, you know, like people in prison, what's his name? Charles Manson. You know, in the rare times that Charles Manson talked, you know, honestly, he would say, I liked being in prison because I didn't know how to take care of myself. And if I'm in prison, I've got 3 meals a day, I've got a place to sleep, it's warm, you know, I've got everything I need. And when I'm out on my own and I'm free, I don't know how to function. I don't know how to live. And this is what we've got. We've got a society of people now, especially creating people who don't know how to be self-sufficient. They really honestly believe. In fact, this is what all of this gender confusion is about. You know, people getting flipped out because they don't want to be called her or him. They want to be called they or it or we or something like that. It's because you get your sense of individuality as a result of the work that you do. Your identity becomes defined by what you do. And if you don't believe you need to do anything, if you believe that everything should be given to you without having to sacrifice for it, you won't have an identity. And then you won't like it. You will want to be so individual that you will have to come up with your own personal pronoun. Don't call me he, him, it, or they. Call me Blekorbisakt. That if you don't call me Blekorbisakt, then you hate me and you are, you know, you're racially or sexually profiling me. That's where all this is coming from. So the lesson that Mars and Saturn is giving for the, you know, especially it's going to kick in later in the month, and I'm giving you a heads up, is it's time to do the work to live from your soul. Find out the bliss that your soul wants to give you. Know the difference between what your soul wants and what the world wants. Everybody has the same instinct, which is to be loved. Your only choice is, are you going to find love outside of you or inside of you? And if you look for it outside of you, trying to get it through the narrative, trying to get it or trying to, whatever club you want to be part of, or whatever religion or whatever cult, you know, if you try to get your love that way, you will be severely disappointed. If you try to get your love directly from your soul, which has a direct connection to God, however you want to look at that. You want to get your love from God. The kingdom of God is within you. Infinity is within you. You won't need anybody else. I don't need anybody else in my life. It's kind of, I don't even know if I could be in a relationship now, because the thought of needing somebody else is kind of unusual for me, because I'm so empowered with the spirit that's I'm connected to. The work that I'm doing is giving me that. All right, so I've babbled on long enough. I'm willing to look at people's interactions here again. I'm only going to respond to questions that I think I can have a positive response to. Again, the best way is to ask me a question from your need. If you ask a question based on your curiosity and you want to ask a question and then answer it later, I'm going to get upset. I'm either not going to answer you or I'm going to humiliate you, and I don't want that for you. If you ask me because you have an emotional need to know something, I want to help you. I'm also interested in hearing your feelings. A feeling is not an experience. A feeling isn't, I went to the store today and bought some really cool cereal. That's not a feeling. Feeling is, I'm sad, I'm hungry, I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm confused, I'm scared, whatever. Those are feelings. All right. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anything on here, which is just fine as well. That's it, my friends. I'm so grateful for you to be here. And, if you want to, like me, if you want to get more empowered with the actual solar flash that's coming, I've recommended all the 3 things to do. Of course, subscribing. Connecting to higher dimensional beings is essential now. And so go and research CE5, the letter C, the letter E, the number 5 protocols, or you can do the free interdimensional meditation on this channel, because when we get to 5D, we are going to be connected to that energy. We'll no longer be connected to this one. Whether that takes years or weeks, it's in your best interest to get connected to that energy now. All right. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And thank you, those of you who are doing the work, those of you who are doing the practices, who are being disciplined. Know that every single time that you work on your own empowerment, you help me and you help every other conscious being in the universe. All right, I'll see you guys next time if the flash don't come and or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise. I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.